Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change. Dave Biddle is usually in this slot with Matt Baxendale. Things are being changed this week. Today it is me and the Dean of Ohio State Recruiting, Bill Kurelic. William, how are you today?
Good morning and doing well. Lots of stuff happening with Ohio State recruiting as we move closer month of March. So we got some things to talk about.
We definitely do. There is current events to deal with. First, Kayan Lee, cornerback out of a school you've heard of, Ellenwood Cedar Grove in the Atlanta suburbs. That is also the high school of Antoine Jackson and Kristen Miller. For those of you who remember his recruitment that went technically down to the wire before he chose Georgia. Kayan Lee was also committed to Georgia. Kayan Lee is no longer committed to Georgia. When he did commit in late September, there was vibes that Ohio State was in the mix. Now that he's back on the market, you have to assume Ohio State is back in the mix. You spoke to him, the latest.
They are absolutely back in the mix. I would say, well, it didn't take long at all to come up on our board on the front row about Kayan Lee decommitting from Georgia, and is he still a possibility, or now more so a possibility for Ohio State? And the answer is yes. Ohio State has talked to him. He is interested, and he is somebody to keep an eye on. As you mentioned, Dan, when he made his decision, Ohio State was absolutely a top school. Back in late July, he told me that Ohio State and Georgia were probably his two top schools at that point. And that was late July. He ended up committing to Georgia at the end of September. So certainly Ohio State was a school that he was highly considering, and he is absolutely considering the Buckeyes again.
Did you get a sense of why he decommitted from Georgia? I mean, I would not be optimistic about this if Georgia was still in the mix.
Yeah, I think that, he really just had to think about things, didn't feel that he was ready to make a final decision and comfortable with that final decision, and wanted to open things back up and take a look at schools again.
So Georgia remains in the mix?
Yeah, I think he's pretty open still, based on what he's told me. But we know how that goes. How often does someone recommit to a school? Not very often. But this is a Georgia kid, and the Georgia Bulldogs are coming off a national championship, so we'll see.
Yeah. All right, there is no truth to the rumor that we are going to change the name of this website to TackettNuts, but I wouldn't be against it because, of course, we are talking about Tackett Curtis, linebacker from Many, Louisiana. We've been covering him a lot. I'll put in here a link to Mark Porter's recent video review. And you spoke to him recently, or spoke to his party recently. Can you give us the latest on Ohio State's intense pursuit of one of the most impressive middle linebackers we've ever seen on film?
Well, there's good reason for talking about this kid a lot. I mean, he is special. I've been doing this a long time, and you just don't see guys just literally blowing up the people he's going against like Tackett Curtis does. I mean, he really is special. And Ohio State could somehow manage to land either him or Troy Bowles or both, incredible. And the good news is they have a legitimate shot at landing both of those guys. They're both highly considering Ohio State. As I posted last night on Bucknuts on Tuesday night, Tackett Curtis now has a visit set. He's going to be at practice on March 8th. He's coming up with his family, which is important. He's coming up with his head coach, which is family. His head coach is Tackett Curtis. Very successful head coach at Manny High School, and his uncle. So, they're all coming up March 8th for a practice. And that is a huge visit. That is going to be his first time at Ohio State. And suffice to say, the red carpet is going to be rolled out.
We'll be all over it. That is for sure. We're going to take a quick break, come back, talk more recruiting. All right, we are back. In the previous segment, Bill mentioned that Team Curtis is scheduled to visit on March the 8th. We have not been officially informed of when spring practice begins, but I'm going to guess right now that the date is going to be March 8th. We know when the spring game is. That's April 16th, and usually you work your way back with 15 practices. Our scribes have guessed on March 8th, and that would be kind of predictive now, because if you look at when visits are scheduled from the big guys, the 8th and the 10th of March are already big days. So who else will be here on the 8th?
Well, as we mentioned, Tackett Curtis was making his visit that day. Also, an offensive lineman from the Northeast, Olaf Allen, a huge young man, a very good offensive line, one of the best in the country. And Justin Fry has been out to see him, has been in contact with him. He's outstanding. He's going to make a 3-day visit. So if Ohio State practices, which I tend to think they will on March 8th and March 10th, Olaf will be able to see 2 practices technically, because he is supposed to be at Ohio State March 8th through March 10th. Also visiting Ohio State March 10th is an absolute top safety prospect, and a guy that you want to keep at home because he's an Ohioan, Malik Hartford from Westchester, Lakota West, who he's just a missile. I mean, he is a missile on the field. He's visiting Ohio State March 10th. You've also got another linebacker that's visiting Ohio State in there. He's visiting Ohio State March 8th. That's Nigel Glover from Ohio, Clayton Northmont. He's someone that Ohio State is looking at. So the visits are starting to get lined up. I don't know if I mentioned him, but Bryson Rogers, a wide receiver, is visiting Ohio State March 8th. So that week, the visits are getting lined up.
All right, Bill, let's finish with this. You rolled a crystal ball recently for Ryan Montgomery, younger brother of Luke Montgomery. Important for many reasons. One, because he's a quarterback. What is Ohio State's plan between now and then? I know that in this class, they like Jackson Arnold. They like Nick Iamaleava, if I pronounce that correctly. Arnold committed to Oklahoma, Iamaleava out on the West Coast, and is the apple of many programs' eye. So let's kind of reset where we are at quarterback going forward here.
Well, they want to get a great quarterback in every recruiting class. And, with the work that Corey Dennis and Ryan Day have done, despite the quarterbacks continuing to come into Ohio, they continue to do it. I mean, Quinn Ewers leaves and they replace him with a guy that's just as good or better, Devin Brown. They've got a quarterback room right now. It's when you look at the young talent there, proud, of course. You've got Devin Brown now at Ohio State, and before Devin Brown came Kyle McCord, 5-star guy. That's a spectacular array of young talent, and they want to continue to get a great quarterback every year. Can they continue to do this with a great in 2023 and a great one in 2024 and then a great one in 2025? You would say the odds are against that, but we've seen what they've done and they've been able to do it. So we'll see. You mentioned Nico. He is a great quarterback for the 2023 class. Not going to be easy to get him at all, but certainly, they're still looking to get a great 2023 and a great 2024 quarterback led by Jaden Davis, who camped at Ohio State this summer. And then you go on to 2025 and you've got Ryan Montgomery, who Corey Dennis is doing a great job of recruiting. In fact, the night I went up to see Findlay play basketball, the first day that the coaches were back out on the road, the Ohio State staff, Corey Dennis, Ryan Day, Justin Fry, were all at that Findlay basketball game that night on January 14th. Corey Dennis also was back to see Ryan Montgomery a second time. So, he is a huge target for 2025. That's a long way out. But keep in mind that Ryan Montgomery has told me in a perfect world, he would like to be committed by sometime going into or during his sophomore season. And that's not far off. He's finishing up his freshman season of basketball. He's on the JV. So for him to be committed by his sophomore season opening or sometime during that season, again, that's not a long way off.
And I'll leave you with this in terms of attracting quarterbacks. Keep in mind, this NFL draft will not have an Ohio State quarterback in it, but the next one will have CJ Stroud called in about the first 20 minutes of the broadcast, and every quarterback wants to hear their name called in the first 20 minutes of the broadcast. We appreciate the Dean stopping by. Have a good one, Bucknutters.